As soon as, there we go, now we can. All right, so good evening, folks. I just wanted to introduce our newest Airport Advisory Commissioner before we get started. Jose Martinez was appointed by Mickey Luna, and I think you were sworn in 3 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago? Yeah, 3 weeks ago. So everything's all above board and good, and he's good to go. So with that, take it away.
Call the meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, the flag. The Pledge of Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We'll call the roll.
Chairman Judd?
Here.
Commissioner Scatini?
Here.
Commissioner Machado?
Here.
Commissioner Meyer?
Here.
Commissioner Jackson?
Here.
Commissioner Houston?
Here.
Commissioner Martinez?
Here.
And I am here.
Okay, thank you. And in addition to Jose Martinez, I'd like to welcome Robbie Scatini back to the Airport Commission. He was an airport commissioner way back when I moved to Hollister, I guess, and for quite a few years. And then when he got elected to the city council, he had to give up the job. So anyway, welcome back, Robbie.
Thank you.
Verification of agenda posting.
The agenda for the Airport Advisory Commission of the City of Hollister regular meeting of April 22nd, 2015 was posted on the bulletin board at City Hall on April 14th at 12 p.m. per Government Code Section 54954.2. I don't think she was out there at midnight posting it.
Yeah. We will work on that. Okay, our consent agenda consists of the minutes from February 25th. Anybody want to comment on those? Or?
I'd like to refrain from voting on this. I wasn't here.
Okay.
I haven't had a chance to look at it, but
Haven't had a chance. Well, they were sent out on the 15th of the month via email. But anyway.
There was one issue during public input, the CMAP cut out, so there's a little bit missing, but.
Yeah, right. In fact, I think that's right. It was when Mrs. Sanzari was speaking, I think we might have missed a couple of items. But
And there was some more later on. CMAP just upgraded the camera system in here. Now we're HD, I think, or close to HD. And the sound systems, a few, like maybe 4 months ago, they had me sounding like Donald Duck on there. It was kind of amusing. But anyway, we're getting the bugs worked out, and we'll be good to go.
okay. Well, unless somebody wants to add into these minutes anything,
No.
no.
I'll entertain a motion to
I'll motion to approve.
accept the. Okay, a second.
A second.
Okay.
Steve?
But those two. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried, and I think Robbie said he was abstaining because he wasn't here. So. Okay, public input. This is a time when the public's invited to speak on any topic that is not on the agenda. And I don't know if anybody filled out speaker cards, or if anybody has anything you want to talk about, raise their hand. Otherwise, we'll move on to the reports. Item 7, which A is Super Bowl update.
Thank you, Chairman Judd. So I do have some information on Super Bowl. As many of you are aware, the Super Bowl is in Santa Clara County next year. As a result of that, we are anticipating some activity coming our way. There was a kickoff meeting 2 weeks ago at San Jose International Airport. Excuse me. I'm having allergies like you can't believe. At the meeting, the FAA said that they're anticipating about 1,300 aircraft, Super Bowl only, to the region. Of those 1,300, 300 are anticipated to be smaller turboprop aircraft or Pilatuses, and 1,000 of them are expected to be like Citation level jets. It's expected to affect everybody, including us. There's a webcast, is that what it's called when you're watching a meeting on the computer? There's a webcast about the reservation system that the Phoenix area used last year for departures, because as you might imagine, as the football game's on, all 1,300 jets want to leave at the same time. So I think there was a problem in either New York or New Orleans a couple Super Bowls ago. So then they went to this reservation system where they allocate so many slots per hour at the airport. And all indications are is it worked way better than nothing. So they'll probably be fine tuning it. We're in the loop. We're setting up plans, and I'll have more to report at a future time.
Okay, can I have a question? Would setting reservations and slots and so forth, would that apply to us also, or?
I would hope to have that question answered during the webcast, since we're on controlled airspace.
Right. That's why I wondered. They're not planning to ship a controller down here, are they? Or are they?
They did in some locations in Arizona,
Oh, okay.
so
they
it
might.
could happen.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments?
Is there any other coordination with the community? I was thinking of transportation, limo services and things of that nature.
I just spoke with Mr. Leonardo before the meeting, and we're going to be setting up a preliminary defined role meeting for the next couple weeks. Once we get that knocked out, then we'll know who's going to do what, because we're anticipating several different partnerships that need to be worked on and developed to make this come off like a hitch. One of them is transportation. Another one that I feel strongly about would be area marketing. So, Chamber of Commerce, stuff like that, et cetera. So we're going to meet with Dave and kind of get that rolled down. If a couple of you wanted to join, I would certainly welcome it. Just let me know who to invite, because I don't want to invite all of you and break the Brown Act.
This would be in relation to like parking airplanes and stuff at our airport.
Yeah, it'll also, that group will also go over the nuts and bolts. I'm going to be probably mostly responsible for throwing ideas out, and Dave's going to tell me that'll work or that won't work. So initially my plan is to clear the ramp like it's an air show, and then we'll probably wind up having to close 2-4 and park airplanes on it. Reed Hillview is already planning on closing one of their runways to park airplanes on. February, January, February, around in there.
Whatever Super Bowl is, yeah, it's usually beginning of the year.
Do you have a wild guess how many planes anticipate? Here?
I don't have a clue.
I could see us handling up to 100, depending on how big they are. If we obviously couldn't handle 100 Citation 5, there's no way. But if we get a mix, Dave put his parking cap on, we'll get him in there. We have to lop a couple wings off here and there, catch them in close, we can do that too.
Did anybody want to volunteer now to, or let you know later, I guess?
When are these meetings going to take place?
In between all my other meetings, so I have no set.
You send out
Plan.
emails when there's going to be a meeting, and
I can, but I don't want to send an email out and get all 7 of you, so I'd rather you designate a couple people right now to work on this, but they would be during the day.
You can put me down for one, I guess.
Anybody else? Robbie? Okay. It's probably good for now.
Hmm.
Maybe you could CC us on things, the rest of us, just, and then we'd ask
I
permission.
can, as long as you don't respond.
As long as we don't, and don't show up without permission.
Yeah, you could respond to me, but you can't respond to the group.
Oh, yeah, right, I understand.
Okay.
No respond all.
No.
Okay. All right. Next item, 7B, is email list.
Last meeting, which was in February, sorry about the March thing, it was a personal business up in Idaho. It was suggested that, I think the example was Salinas has a extremely well-developed email list, and I believe the point was it developed more of a community atmosphere at the airport and let people know what was going on. I believe Tony maintains somewhat of an email list. I think she just worked with Fred to update it. The way I've been operating, and you can tell me if you want me to do something different, but if I have something that I need to get out to everybody, I normally kick it to Fred, and then Fred gets it out to everybody. So anytime we get TFR reports, Caltrans newsletters, or anything that just is general everybody information, that's where it goes. So I thought that was working. If it's not working, or if you want something different, please let me know. I can see if we can make that happen.
Well, the email list I got from Tony has about 115 people, and I've only got about 89. And I don't know how I'm going to try and import them into my list somehow.
Okay?
Yeah, I'll see what I can do.
And so I guess my comment would be, presumably Fred started a list a long time ago because the EAA was trying to, was active and was actually doing a lot of stuff. And so it just kind of grew from there. I don't know whether it would logically, in my mind, it might seem more appropriate coming from your office, but.
And I think Tony sends out stuff too, doesn't she? Yeah, so
I just wonder if it's,
I can certainly send it to Tony to send out.
but
Yeah,
it'd probably be good to get Tony and Fred to compare their lists and make sure that nobody's, it includes everybody.
Yeah, my list was primarily T-hangar tenants, but I don't have any of the businesses on it. But I talked to Tony about her doing it. She kind of like gasped.
Tony is a very busy person.
Well, I'm just, my concern is.
It's not a
that we get
problem. We can certainly make
At
it
least
work.
get the same list, and if you want to use Fred, and Fred's happy with that, I'm
Some
okay with
people,
that too.
believe it or not, some people have us blocked. So if it's coming from Fred, at least I know it's getting there.
Oh, well, okay, I won't comment about that. All right, anyway, just as long as we make sure we've got as comprehensive a list, and presumably Tony can verify these lists, that we've got everybody as much as possible who is a tenant of any sort on whichever list.
I can forward
Okay.
it to you, what she sent me, the
Okay.
information.
All right, we'll take a look at it. All right,
It's,
enough on that, if anybody has no more questions. Item 7C, California Aviation Day at the Capitol.
So today was the third, I think, California Aviation Day at the Capitol, and this started from the ACA, the Association of California Airports, and basically they were trying to draw attention to how important aviation is in California. So for a couple of years now, they've been having this event, and I've been, with limited time, trying to maybe get Hollister involved. This year, Steve succeeded in making that happen. So today, Steve and Tony went up to the Capitol with our little orange airplane, and our new trade show booth. And otherwise, I'd have it up so you guys could see it, but that's next meeting. And they participated in this event. Sounds like it was successful, except for your shoes not surviving. About 150 children went through the plane before the CHP said you can't have any fun up here because we don't allow fun. I believe there was a lot of good exposure. I have a photograph with 3 assembly members next to our plane. He didn't get them in the plane, I don't think. I know you tried. Without even asking, I know you tried. I believe a lot of information was handed out via the air show and other items.
We got some people from Watsonville that didn't even know we had an air show.
So all in all, I would say the event was a success. Long drive, appreciate it. But maybe we'll make this an annual thing, we'll see. Maybe the CHP will learn how to have a little bit of fun too.
Okay, any questions?
I will say that we were the first airplane ever to be at the California Aviation Day. Yeah, I think at the Capitol too, because,
Did you have both wings on it, or just?
yep.
Okay. Item 7D is South County Open House.
So just want to let you know that the South County Airport's open house is May 30th. We will send our intrepid little orange airplane over to that event to advertise for the air show. If any of you wish to sign up for a shift over there of talking to people and watching kids have the time of their lives, let me know and I'll get you signed up with a partner to go over there and help out. Fred's done it several years. I think he has a good time each year, a little bit. I think we brought it. No, we can't do the tent because they always want a helicopter next to us. So that's why we can't bring a tent. But I can buy you some sunblock. So I'll put it on the cow card.
Okay. Any questions?
What's the date on that again?
May 30th, my grandmother's birthday.
Just one day?
One day.
Is your grandmother around to celebrate it? No. Okay. All right. Item 7E, airport striping.
Commissioner Judd reminded me, we changed the striping on the taxiways at the airport recently. FAA adopted new requirements for Part 139 airports requiring enhanced taxiway centerline markings. They're also requiring runway markings on the ground, and we're going to put those in too. I haven't gotten those done yet. But what enhanced taxiway centerline markings are is you have your center line, which is a solid yellow line. On either side is a dashed line for something like 50 yards before the threshold, 150 feet, 50 yards. Pretty good. 50 yards before the threshold where you enter the runway at, not the end of the runway, but the runway
Old short line.
hold short line. So several things played into my decision. We were not required to put them in. Our airport is used by a lot of commercial pilots learning how to fly, particularly JAL, which is Japan Airlines. So I figured, you know, it would help them learn a little quicker what the markings at the big boy airports were. Number two, it can't do anything but enhance safety out there, and it's just a little bit of pain. Number three, I did clear it with Caltrans before I did it. I said, am I gonna get in trouble for doing this? And Caltrans said, not only are you not gonna get in trouble, but we would encourage you to do it in the name of safety. So with that said, we went out in there and did it. It was an in-house job, which is obvious in a few areas. Some of them are a little wiggly. It was a little windy the day we did it and everything. They will get replaced here shortly with the project, and because they're there, the project will take care of putting them back in. So that's what the new weird markings are out there. The next weird marking you will see as soon as we get time is 2 red blocks on the pavement, outlined in black, I believe, with the white runway designator on the ground. And I want to say those squares are 12 foot by 12 foot. So that you see that in addition to the sign off to the side. And once again, it's the same thought process. Number one, people are learning and it gives them some practice without being out in the middle of San Jose International. Number two, it can't do anything but help. And number three, it's good with Caltrans. So that's what's going on at the airport striping.
Okay, any questions? Okay, item 7F, CPI Consumer Price Index.
Many of your favorite topics. So just a reminder, it's the end of April, so CPI is supposed to be coming out soon, and I'll be working on that and getting the changes, if there are any, out to the tenants per the conditions in their lease.
Or the what was that last?
Conditions in their lease.
Oh,
All the leases aren't the same, so some CPI goes now and some it goes later, and it's a mess. There's about 8 different trigger
I'm
dates.
just trying to soften this up is what
Yep.
you're trying to do. Yeah, okay, gotcha. All right. Anything else on that?
That's it.
Okay. We have a couple, 2 or 3 more items here that have been added in the last minute. Item 7G is FAST Team.
Yes, yesterday, the FAA FAST team organizer or liaison showed up at the airport, and they are looking for flight instructors to participate in developing FARs, I believe. I realize that's only about 4 or 5 people at the airport that are qualified. But there's a poster on the bulletin board outside of your place, and we have some information in my office if you're interested in it. Ruth, this is for your newsletter if you want to send it out to your people. But there's some questions over here about, do you want to help educate pilots, and you want to develop training syllabuses and stuff like that. So I told her that I would get that in.
Okay. We have an item H, which is listed as happy birthday to Richard Borg.
That's
Happy birthday,
correct.
Richard.
21 again.
Yeah. I thought he told me earlier he was 100. Okay. And I kind of tacked one on here while we were talking. The AOPA fly-in is May 16th before our next.
Oh,
And
okay.
I don't see it anywhere on here. Did you have any comments
Sorry.
about that?
We are number 2 in line on the waiting list to have a booth over there. I did get an email today saying that they had static display aircraft space available, and if we wanted to set up a booth around an aircraft, they would let us. I just don't know how bad that one's gonna cost, so I'll look at it, and maybe we'll truck the little orange airplane that could out to Salinas. So, it gets around, that airplane gets more places without an engine than most with engines. So,
Okay, so,
anyway, I need to research that a little more. It came in, today was rally day,
no,
so,
that's fine. I just saw
Didn't have
something
time.
reminding me that, we won't have another commission meeting before this happens, so.
I can tell you participation is quite expensive, so,
Well,
I won't,
Maybe we don't need to
I won't
participate.
really cry if we don't get
No,
in
no, yeah, that's
there,
fine. Okay.
so.
All right, that's all I was wondering about. So if there are no more questions on reports here, we can move on to old business. And item 8A is business plan.
So, we had our first meeting of the little group that's working on the business plan. We kind of defined the problem and set goals. I was asked to provide the AIP program, the Airport Improvement Program, for the next 25 years to them so that they could look at that. I think I gave you a budget too. Can't remember what else I sent out. So we're going to have a second meeting scheduled here in the next few weeks to move on to chapter 3, I think. I think we did the first 2 chapters. So we're just working through it and getting the scope on the problem.
Okay. Item 8B under old business is the air show.
So I can't remember what I told you folks before, but we did lose one of our acts. The FAA shot him down, no pun intended, but we were going to hire a gentleman who was going to fly a rocket across the airport. But the FAA said, it's our air show rules, it's our airport, and it's our air show, and thou shalt not. So we won't be flying a man in a rocket across the airport. So we do have plenty of performers. We're going to have the stunt motorcycles back. We have Spencer Suderman and Vicky Benzing coming back. I believe we're pretty close to getting some other surprises agreed out and worked on. So we have a nice little air show planned, and we encourage everybody to go online and buy some tickets or come down to the farmer's market here in a couple weeks and get their tickets. There is a discount available both places. I bought my tickets already. I did?
Yeah, I know.
120 bucks worth.
Anything else?
That's all I got.
Okay. Item 8D under old business is AIP 17, the runway.
You skipped one.
What?
You skipped one.
Airport lights.
I beg your pardon. Item 8C is airport lights.
So at our last meeting, it was pointed out that we had some issues with our security lighting. And you would not believe how difficult it is to fix lights. But it took us some time after that report. Believe me, if it was just changing a light bulb, we would have gone out and changed the light bulb. But ultimately what it worked out to be is the lights that are out there, you cannot get parts for, and you cannot get the same thing anymore. So then we went and we're looking at the light options, and we identified a light that we thought would work. So we ordered that light, one of them, had it shipped to us, which took a week or 10 days. When it got there, we installed that one light as a test on one of the outlights. We were pleased with the results. They're LED, so they're more energy efficient. And so at that point, we ordered 20 more, 25 more, which was a considerable amount of money. So we have them. I believe at this point, every light that was out that we know about has been repaired. So if you're still having problems or anything, please kick us an email. We'll get on it. We're not often there before the sun comes up. Pretty close, but not often there before. So at this point, I believe we have the lighting issue kicked for the time being. And we have spares in case something goes wrong.
I guess I have one question. These are LED style fixtures. Are the bulbs or whatever, are they replaceable? Or do they like use some kind of a standard screw in or anything?
No, these light fixtures, the LED circuits are actually just on the housing.
So if
So there's
craps out, you gotta
once
buy a
it-
new fixture.
Exactly.
And the fixtures cost?
I don't even remember. Something like that, 100 something bucks a piece.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Lights are not cheap.
That's right. We have a comment, I guess, from,
I didn't fill out
She's
a
calling
card.
an audible.
I'm wanting to ask about lighting. Two places that I request, not just me, but other people have requested from me when we go to meetings at night. Not so much in the summer, but more in the fall, winter, and spring. Where the keypad is, there is no lighting. You have to just feel your way around it. And to get into the door, below the number 16, you know, at the end of that hangar.
The meeting
16.
room?
Yes. There's no lighting to see which keys you're trying to open the doors with.
We can probably add a circuit pretty easily to the meeting rooms, and I believe it or not, the keypad light should be changing a light bulb. So we will get to that.
Okay, thank you.
The keypad,
Now we gotta find the keys to the keypad.
when you say keypad, the one that's on a stanchion in the middle of the road? Is that adequate? Okay. Okay. Any other comments, questions? Okay, now, item 8D, AIP 17, runway.
Okay, so as some of you are aware and some of you are about to learn, we did a major project this last winter, I guess, because it lasted all of winter. And what that major project was to remove the last 3,500 feet of runway in total, take all the asphalt out. There was only dirt underneath it. We removed, I want to say, about 16 inches of dirt, took that out, and then they dug down another 24 inches, I believe, rototilled in lime, compacted it significantly, so that's called lime treating the soil, which effectively turns the soil into as hard as this. Then they brought back 18 inches of super rock, had to be the special P209 special rock, and that got in there and they compacted the heck out of that. And then they brought in the modified oil super asphalt, and they did 8 2-inch passes on the bottom and 8 2-inch passes on the top. They offset the joints by a foot so that water didn't just run through all the joints. And while they were doing that, when the asphalt started, there were some difficulties that arose. One of the difficulties was, as they were rolling that first layer of asphalt, the asphalt wasn't compacting, it was squishing. So a 12-foot wide strip became a 14-foot wide strip. So they didn't reach the right compaction numbers, so they didn't squeeze the right amount of air out of those layers. They were required to squeeze, I believe, about 96.5% of the air out of that asphalt. And they were hitting numbers like 89 and 91 and 92. The way the FAA grant works, all that test information that we're required to do, they have people that are testing, we have people that are testing. We're drilling holes in the new runway, which makes me real happy, let me tell you. But there must be, at this point, 100 holes out there in that runway. Does not make any sense to me. But anyway, they take core samples and they put them in the lab and they figure out how much air is in them and all this stuff. So all that information gets uploaded into a spreadsheet supplied by the FAA, and that spreadsheet works its magic. It spits out a pay value for the contractor. If they did a good job, they can earn 100% of the pay. Because it's done in lots, say you do a good job on one lot, you get a 95%. And you do a poor job on one lot, and that's 40%. And then you do a really good job on a lot, you can actually get up to 120% on that lot, which offsets the 40%. So by the time they got the layers done, all 16 runs, the magic number at the bottom was over $500,000 in pay penalties. So there's 16 layers of concrete. I believe 11 of them did not come in, or concrete. There's 16 layers of asphalt. I believe of the 16, somewhere around 11, give or take a couple either way, did not meet spec. Of those, I want to say 7 or 8 are in what they call the reject category, meaning they can stay at a significant pay penalty, or they can actually be required to be removed and replaced. In addition to that, for whatever reason, whether it was an error reading the specs or whether it was the fact that the stuff squished out on the bottom, whatever it was, I believe we're going to begin a process to determine whatever that was, or so I've been promised. The middle 16 feet of the runway is not 4 inches thick. It's 3.75, 3.8, 3.9, 3.99, 3.75. So it doesn't, I guess in a couple places it might have been 4.2 or 4.1. Not in the center, never got up there. I thought it did, but anyway. So the FAA says it will be 4 inches thick, period. So where we stand now is the contractor is required to repair the center 2 lanes of the runway, which means they have to go out there with a grinding machine, they grind out those center 2 lanes, and then they come back and put enough asphalt to bring it up. I don't want to go into agonizing detail, because you can believe Dean or I, it is agonizing, into the remaining parts of it. I should have more information at the next meeting. Currently, what action we are taking is we are preparing a technical letter to be sent to the contractor, laying out our position, and we'll go from there. So, sorry.
Be sure for the record, tell us who you are,
I
Ruth.
think she needs me.
For the
Cheryl's
record.
out there. Oh, I didn't know she was coming back.
Is your mic on?
People at home, they gotta know.
No,
It's not.
Ruth, you got the new, yeah.
What's it do, shut off?
Yeah, timer. I like it that way.
Okay. Okay, Ruth Erickson, you already knew that. I know I asked Mike this, but I think everybody needs to have an explanation. It's not Mike's fault, but I know that government agencies have to go for the lowest bid. This contractor, I seem to remember having this same comment several years ago when the same contractor had problems at the airport with the runway. Am I right? But they were the low bid, and we had to hire them again. And once again, we have a big problem. Now, is there any way one can get around not using the same contractor each time just because they give the lowest bid? I mean, what happens next time you need work done? And you have to accept the lowest bid, and they're going to be the lowest bid, and what happens? You have another problem.
We are currently researching, I'm sure there's a process, the process that the city will have to go through to deal with that. That's something that's been asked to have happen.
Okay. But I
Above me.
remember this from several years ago, same
But-
problem.
But I cannot say it was the same problem. I can't. I wasn't around here. I think I was
It
about,
wasn't the same problem, it was the fact that the same contractor had problems doing whatever they did to the runway.
so,
And that's what I'm saying.
and I want to be fair. There's nothing, so let me tell you where we're at right now. The decision was made to fix the center of the runway. to bring it up to 4 inches. Unfortunately, next week CAL FIRE goes active. As such, we can't do the work. So as soon as CAL FIRE leaves, contractor will come back. We're going to fix the thickness of the runway. In between now and then, we're going to see how we're going to address the other issues. Possible solutions are to remove it all and start over. That's not a popular solution with me, and it's not a popular solution with the tenants, and it's not a popular solution with the contractor, obviously. A solution that would work would be to add another 1.5 inches of asphalt properly to the top of the whole project. The contractor believes this is the best option and wishes to proceed that direction. But in order to proceed that direction, he is demanding $250,000 in additional money from us that the grant would not pay for. So the airport would be required to pay for that. So as I've explained in many meetings, that is not a $250,000 expense to the airport. That is a $2.5 million expense, actually $2.75 million expense to the airport. Because if we use $2.5 million to do this, that's $2.5 million in matching funds we do not have for grants. So currently, it is my recommendation and it is the city manager's recommendation not to pay $250,000 to the contractor to proceed. So we're still meeting, we're still doing things, but that's where I need to leave it tonight. I'll probably have more at the next meeting because the technical letter will be completed and will be sent. I'll be able to provide you a copy of that letter. I'm also going to try at the next meeting to have a graphic showing the 16 different layers and which ones are which, so that you understand that the scope of the problem.
Well, the FAA said they wanted 4 inches. If you add 2 more, that's 6 inches. Is that
It would
right?
exceed 4 inches, which would be okay.
Minimum 4 inches.
Oh, minimum, oh, minimum, okay, all right.
Since this is due to contractor error, aren't they liable to produce a quality product?
The specs say they are. I can't go down that road.
A contract of some sort?
They did. I can't go down that road right now.
Okay,
Well, I imagine we'll get there.
yeah, well, it's a long ways to go on this yet.
Yes. Dean has attended these meetings, and I will invite Dean to future ones if and when they occur.
As a kind of peripheral on the same subject, one of those meetings was brought up, actually it was after the meeting, I think, or something, but anyway, about the threshold on 3.1 being off by being not painted in the right spot.
Yes, it was discovered by Kimley Horn that the 3.1 threshold, when we did our slurry seal several years ago, got moved about 12 or 15 feet. Effectively, what they did was they had the whole bar and they flipped it so that the top of the whole bar became the bottom of the whole, or I'm sorry, the top of the threshold became the bottom of the threshold when they put it back down. As a result, when we just repainted it, they put it right back where it was again. So now that we've done the surveying for the next end of the runway, we figured that out, we're putting it back where it belongs.
So right
And
now
the next project.
The runway is 16 feet shorter right now, is that what
Yeah,
you're
something
saying?
like that.
Okay,
So we have 6334.
okay. Okay, I just wondered, so we're not planning to do anything with that until we eventually put a permanent,
Our next
Redo.
project is to redo that end of the runway,
oh, okay.
and I don't see paying for it twice.
Okay, that's fine.
I don't think that 16 feet is going to make a big difference
No,
between now and then.
Yeah,
Not for me, it's not.
no. I hadn't noticed it myself, but, anyway. Okay, thank you. Anybody, any other questions on this topic? Okay. Next item is under item 9, new business budget.
So I met with the city manager. The budget went through without any changes. So it's in the holding pattern before it gets presented to the city council. I believe it'll get presented to the city council in the next couple months. I went through the whole thing last time. I can go through the whole thing again for the benefit of the new commissioners, or the new commissioners can meet with me offline and I could go through the whole thing with them that way also. Either way.
Well, speaking for myself, I'd rather not go through the whole thing again. If the new commissioners don't mind meeting with Mike.
I can meet with you, Mike, sometime next week,
Okay,
Okay,
if you find time to go over the budget.
no problem.
okay. I have one question that I didn't have time to really look at this. I got sidetracked on what the real budget is. But is there somewhere easy to see on here which shows whether we are projected to have enough revenues to cover our budget, or
No,
there's no place to see that?
that's not what you were given.
Okay.
You were given the
That's why I
line
can't-
item detail.
That's why it doesn't jump out at me then.
That's correct.
Okay. Do you happen to know offhand whether, how the budget looks
good.
compared to? what is-
Actually,
what does that mean?
there is some significant savings at this point due to my reassignment, for lack of a better term. My new job, I'm a bargain for the airport now. So as a result of that, I'm actually trying to add a maintenance position at the airport. So we'll have 2 people, maybe even get somebody who can work on Saturdays, so that there's somebody available when the majority of the users are at the airport. If something comes up, they can deal with it then, rather than have it sit there unsafe till Monday. So currently, you're showing a significant surplus. Once that information is put in, it will be a little surplus.
We have money going set aside for reserve funds?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so.
I just-
Go ahead, Fred.
Oh.
You got a question?
I just have one question that's not a big deal. On page 3, under revenue, on that summary of the US government, $1,980, what's that?
That is the Bureau of Land Management renting part of the Cal Fire Yard.
Oh.
All that stuff you see from the road, big trucks
Oh,
and
okay.
forklifts and stuff, that's BLM. They don't have any place to store their equipment, so they rent a portion of their yard.
And they pay us?
They pay us
Why don't they pay CAL FIRE?
because they're not renting it from Cal Fire, they're renting it from us.
Oh. Oh, well, you
And
said it's
that's-
part of their yard, I just wanted.
Well, within their fenced compound, but it's not
It's
part
not
of their
part of what
lease.
they lease, I see.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not leasing things out twice. I know we tried that once before.
Okay, just checking.
And
I don't know
that
why
same-
we'd have a problem with it, but
Well, maybe CAL FIRE just wouldn't notice.
In that same column, I haven't had a chance to
It's
really
all
go
we
over
the
this,
people.
It has
It's all we the
CDF,
people.
$0, what's that? Right above it.
We'll be knocking it.
they don't have a ground lease yet. That's a placeholder. If you look down below where it says building rent, CDF 30,000,
Okay,
because currently they have a building lease with us, but when they move, it becomes a ground lease.
oh,
So I put the placeholder in there so it doesn't get missed
okay. Yeah,
by
so-
me when I'm going 1,000 miles an hour.
Okay.
Any more questions? You done, Fred?
I think so.
Okay.
I haven't had a chance to look at it, but I'm sure it's all right.
Okay, item 9B is NBAA 2015.
So, as many of you recall, I attended the Business Aviation Convention and Exhibition, last year. I went as kind of tip my toe in the water to see if that was something that we'd want to participate in. For 30 years, the city of Hollister and the everything's been geared to attracting business aviation to the airport. You know, the unpolished diamond or diamond and the rough or whatever they call it. The business park outside with the whole through the fence that we've got in place. So in my mind, if you want to buy a Ford, you go to the Ford dealership. And if you want to get into business aviation, you need to be where business aviation is. Because sitting here waiting for them to come, we built it, they haven't come. So I went, it is the right venue to get that message across. This is actually the world's largest business aviation conference. I was in shock. I mean, literally in shock. I want to say I walked 18 miles inside the exhibit hall. So with that, came back, I discussed with you, I discussed with the city manager, and it was decided that we're going to attempt to market the airport, the Super Bowl angle, etc., at this event. So we have our booth space, we have our hotel rooms. It's in Vegas this November, I think. Yeah, November 17th to the 19th. So we purchased a trade show booth, for lack of a better term. I will have it set up at the next airport commission meeting so you folks can see it. It was busy today, so I couldn't obviously set it up for you. And Steve showed up 10 minutes before the meeting. It takes a couple hours to set up. So it's a very nice professional thing. It was designed in-house, and then we paid a company online. They cranked it out and sent it to us. So all in all, we're getting prepared. I still need to meet with Gov Hol Aviation, get some information from you guys that we can hand out. We met with Ken Lindsay in fact, Ken Lindsay's actually going and going to participate with us. I need to meet with Mr. Bickle and see if he wants to do anything. But all in all, we're off and going. I have our in-house graphic artist working on some literature for us to provide to market the Golden Triangle, the area inside the airport that hasn't been developed in front of. We're going to ruin Dean's View. So the area in front of Dean's Hangar, there's probably like 16 acres that's available to be developed once CAL FIRE goes in there. And for years, it's been called the Golden Triangle. So we're developing a handout about that area and the options that are available for that. So all in all, I think we're just about ready to go on this. We haven't gotten our plane stuff yet because Southwest Airlines doesn't have tickets this early. So Southwest Airlines only books 6 months out, but that's our airline. $69 each way. So anyway, that's where we're at there. Any questions about that?
What is that NBAA,
National Business Aviation Association. And, at this conference, the attendees are, I got to see a presentation by the Secretary of Transportation. The head of the FAA was there. Multiple congressmen and senators were there. So that's the level that we're talking about. So it's the cream of the crop. And if we're going to get Hollister's name out there, we need to do it.
How much does that booth space cost?
It was a couple $1,000.
Oh, okay. All right, any other questions on this topic? Cool. Item 9C, Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 33, Aviation Awareness Month.
So I'm going to ask you folks to do something new tonight. I'm looking for a recommendation, because my intent to take this to council, for the next two items where you either support or shoot down the idea of supporting these two resolutions, and then I'll take it to council and ask council to agree to send a letter in support of these bills. As you might guess, I'm asking you to support both these bills. Or if you folks don't want to support these bills, I will definitely inform them that you don't wish to support these bills. But let's talk about the bills. So the first one's easy. All it is doing is declaring Aviation Awareness Month. So it's kind of a no-brainer, but I figured it was a good way to get our feet wet here as we ease into the deep end of the pool with the next one. So,
Let me ask a question about that one.
mhm,
This is supposed to be April, is the Aviation Awareness Month, is that right?
probably.
Yeah. So if we
But
support
sh-
this, it's just like, by
It's
the time
technic-
anything gets to them, it'll be passed. Is it like we're gonna support it for next year, or
Yes.
just, okay. All right. Well, certainly, just speaking for myself, I'd be happy to support it. With
First and a second.
what's that?
Give me a first and a second
So,
discussion.
you want a motion, yeah, I mean, discussion, does anybody wanted to talk about it, or we wanna just make a motion to?
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I don't think
Okay.
we need a discussion.
I would so move. Or somebody moved it? I'll second it.
Somebody gotta make a motion to
I'll make a
that
motion.
makes coherent sense. To basically, I guess I'm entertaining a motion that the Airport Advisory Commission does in fact support Airport Aviation Month, and that we'd like the pass that information to the city council.
Okay, Gordon made that, Rick?
Yeah, I make a motion to support Senate Concurrent Resolution number 33.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. That's 9C.
Okay, 9B, or D, is Senate Bill 747. I think the number was chosen for a reason. This one, I'm going to ask you folks also to support. This changes some things that are actually good for us. So each year, the airport gets $10,000 from the state, period. So it's a $10,000 state grant. There's been some difficulties in getting matching grants from the state for the federal projects for a while. The state didn't have any money. Then when they do have money, the state's process does not work concurrently with the federal process. And in order to satisfy the federal process, which pays for 90% of the project, you violate the state's process, and then the state won't give you their 4%. So instead of paying 6%, you wind up paying 10%. So ACA, once again, the same people that put on the Aviation Day, thought they had that all figured out. And so a couple years ago, or last year, they did a bill that said that if you get a federal grant for a project, you can start the grant, which is what the feds want you to do, while you're going through the process to get your state matching fund. There's no strings attached. That bill passed through both houses unanimously. Only bill to do that in like forever. It was a unanimous vote from both houses. Went to the governor's desk. It sat in a stack of stuff for him to sign for whatever the time period, I think he has 21 days or 14 days to sign it. On the 13th day, 23rd hour, and 59-minute, Caltrans called up and said, don't sign it. So he didn't sign it, and the bill died. Caltrans was afraid that they would lose control if he signed it. When we had our meeting in October up at Tahoe, September, We were all looking for an opportunity to talk to the Caltrans guy and say, why'd you do it? He didn't show up. He sent a planner from the office. That poor guy went into such a hostile room, it wasn't even funny. So this is in response to that. And basically, the legislature has said, enough. You don't want to be nice? They're going to change it to, instead of getting $10,000, we get $30,000. Our mandated, or our entitlement funds for FAA grants from the FAA are $150,000 a year. So that $15,000 matching is covered by that 30. And there's another 15 on top of that. So it's really a good deal for us because it guarantees, even if the airport, for some unknown reason, although we've taken steps to prevent it from ever happening, did not have the matching funds for its annual federal grant, the state, this would cover it. So my recommendation to you would be to recommend the city council send a letter of support for this bill, because this is a good deal. And it eliminates a lot of unnecessary work, in my view.
So I have a question. You related this situation from a couple of years ago where everybody was for it, except for the governor. The Caltrans called him up and says, don't sign it. What's to prevent the same thing from happening with this bill?
That's why I'm asking the city of Hollister to support it and send a letter. And other cities across the state are sending letters to support it.
These are letters to the governor.
I believe they are to the governor. Specifically, these letters that we're going to be sending are to Assemblyman Alejo and our state senator. So that when they come up for procedural votes, we're going to support it. We ask them to support it.
It'd be nice if at the same time we can say, and when they are approved by the legislature, we would also like to see another letter sent to the governor telling him to sign the darn thing.
Okay? Include that in the motion.
That's what I'd like to do. I mean, because it sounds to me like, well, I won't say what I think. Okay, so anybody want to make a motion?
Or a question?
Oh, hold on, we got a question.
Is there more support for this bill other than just aviation-oriented cities? Is some other side groups supporting the same thing?
I don't know. This is a strictly a aviation bill. We are the only, this money comes from Caltrans Aviation, and it's specifically called state assistance. Only airports qualify for that money. Some airports, like, I want to say Weed, it's all the money they get. You know, some of those real rural strips, this is all the money they get.
Because some bills get support from other agencies, and some bills like this, because I don't have an airport, why should I support it? I'll fight it, you know, because you might be stealing money from one of my kiddies, you know.
Well, that's not, all this money is aviation money, and it can only be used for aviation money. This comes from state aviation taxes. That's where this money comes from.
Any other discussion or questions? Robbie, you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we support Senator Bill 747, introduced by Senator McGuire.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded?
Was there an addendum you were asking?
Well, yeah, it was one, can we include in that, in our request, that we also send a letter to, in addition to those legislators, that once it's passed, we continue with a letter to the governor? That'd
Yes.
be all right if we include that in your motion, Robbie?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we're down to item 10, which is items for next agenda. Number of 7A, we'll probably still have that. I suppose we could, South County Open House, just a mention of that, because it won't have happened yet. Want to talk about CPI? Keep us-
No.
Keep it softened up? Yeah.
But I'll soften you up some more.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, maybe the AOPA fly-in, update on that. Old business plan, air show. Probably AIP 17. I guess, I don't know if there'll be anything to say about the budget next month.
I'll keep it in there if there
Yeah,
is.
if
If not, I'll say nothing to report.
Okay. I guess probably keep NBAA on there, just, no, you don't want it in there? You don't want to bring it up?
I'll
here?
give a report back afterwards.
What, you're gonna wait till after it's happened? Is that what you just said?
Yeah, that's when I'm gonna have something to report back.
Well, I'm just, okay.
It's not till November.
Well, I know, but, all right. And I guess we've covered those resolutions. Is there anything new that anybody would like to see added to the agenda? No? What?
It's on there.
It's on there. Yeah, air show's on there. That it? Well, if something comes up, we can let Mike know and he'll put it on, presumably. Okay, next meeting date will be May 27th. Is that right?
I missed the calendar.
Yeah, where'd
It's
the
on
calendar?
the floor.
Okay. May 27th, yeah, okay. All right, entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll so move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carried. Meeting's adjourned.